So we are live now.
Slides are still running. I mean, it's not loaded yet.
No, but it will take a little time because depending upon the images center, it will take some time. Okay, sir, welcome.
Thank you, Doctor.
You please click on the video, sir, so that we can see you.
Hello. Am I?
Yes. No, we can hear you, but we can't see you.
Acha, 1 minute. Wait for me.
Yeah, it's already uploaded now.
That's good. What is sir? What is sir?
Hello.
Yes, sir. We can't see you. No, we can't see you, sir.
Okay. What happened? Hello.
What is sir? What is sir?
Hello.
Dr. Rosie.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, you have someone to call him and ask him to join through mobile. It'll be more easier.
Okay, sir.
I think sir is finding some difficulty in the laptop.
Yeah, I got it.
Yes. Good.
Okay.
Sir, welcome to you.
Thank you, Amanji.
Rosie,
Yes, sir.
it is 2:28 now. Maybe 2-3 minutes we can wait so that other people can join and then we can start.
Okay, sir.
So before we start, a small introduction among ourselves.
Yeah. I think.
Sir, Mr. Rajesh
Yeah.
with us. He is speaker for today's program.
Yeah.
He is a clinical scientist at Johns Hopkins in Saudi Arabia.
Yes.
Dr. Vakode, sir, who is the professor of pharmaceutical chemistry at Dipsar University. And along with you, we have Dr. E. Ramesh, principal
Yeah.
of.
Hello, sir.
Ramesh, how are you?
Sir. Fine, sir. We heard about you, but virtually we are meeting today.
So nice. I'm also able to see all of you over here.
Yes, sir.
Good thing. Thank you.
Now, both are very eminent and stalwarts of pharmacy profession of the country.
Yes, they are. All of you are stalwarts, man. All of you are doing wonderful things. It's my pleasure that you have given me an opportunity to interact with these people. That's great.
So can we put on the first slide, Rosie,
Yes, sir.
so that other people can join and we can start later.
Dr. Ramesh is in Viper, no?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's good. I have heard about the thing, Viper also, as well as you, but even we could not meet here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Come sometimes, once this pandemic is over, all of you are most welcome to Dipsar.
Yeah, yes, sir. I've been to DIPSAR, I think twice already for every IPC. I mean to say.
Lecture during IPC.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, because I'm a Central Executive Council member. So
Nice, sir.
IPA and State Branch President, IPA Narsapur Branch President. So I am with the DIPSAR. I have seen many times. Like,
Okay, good, good, very good.
so it's a wonderful university. That's what we all feel.
Thank you, we are doing.
I think whenever you come to South, I think you should drop in and definitely have a visit
Yeah.
to our place, sir.
Uh,
And
Definitely.
particularly Rajesh, I think, from which place are you, sir?
I'm basically
So I'm
from Maharashtra, Kola.
Oh, okay.
Acha, Rajesh sir, yes.
Yeah, no problem, sir.
Sorry.
I'm
Okay.
from Calicut, Kerala.
Kerala, okay.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So generally your visit to Hyderabad will be very less, I believe.
Well, actually, it's long back. Actually, yeah,
Yeah.
it's long back. I usually come up to Bangalore, but beyond that, it's
Yeah.
Okay.
yeah. But Mysore, I always visit. Almost every year, I visit Mysore.
Nice. We're
So
also
that-
having few alumni from this Trivandrum. Mr. Anil is there, our alumni. Mr. CB is there. CB Alvinzos from the Kerala. All of them are there.
Should we start, Rosie, or should we wait for 1 or 2 minutes?
You can start.
No, I could not hear you well. Should we start or should we wait for 1 or 2 minutes?
Yes, sir, we can start.
Because it is 24 out of 305. So should we wait or meanwhile we'll keep on training?
We'll wait.
So how is the corona condition in Delhi, sir? Vakadu, sir?
It is controlled, not very good also. Everywhere it is spreading the things like anything. People are not understanding the importance of this physical distancing and sanitization. That's the main problem.
It is heavily raining here now.
Oh, that's good. So the cool person is more cool. Yeah. Dr. Rosie? Hello?
Yes, sir.
I think we should start because maybe every time the delegates feel it's an Indian program, they will start joining slowly. We can start, I think.
Okay, sir.
We can give the preamble. Yeah.
A very good afternoon to everyone present here. I'm Dr. Rosi Raju, Assistant Professor, Department of Pharmacy Practice, Shadavilas College of Pharmacy, Mysuru. I take this privilege to warmly welcome you all for today's webinar on the eve of World Pharmacist Day with topic Digital Transformation in Pharmacy Practice, organized by Department of Pharmacy Practice, Shadavilas College of Pharmacy, Mysuru. Pharmacist represents the third largest healthcare professional group in the world. In India, there are more than 10 lakh registered pharmacists working in various positions, applying their unique knowledge and skills, contributing to the health of the nation. Pharmacist Day is observed across the world on September 25th. The World Pharmacist Day is celebrated by pharmacists to promote their commitment to organize activities that promote and advocate for the role of pharmacists in improving health in all parts of the world. Every individual on this planet, including students, should know the objectives behind celebrating the World Pharmacist Day on September 25th. The primary objective is to improve the health services for patients through the effective usage of therapeutic products, increasing the importance of pharmacists in the medical team. The theme for 2020 is Transforming Global Health. Wishing all the budding and distinguished pharmacists a happy World Pharmacist Day. On this fine afternoon, we also feel proud to inform about Shadavilas College of Pharmacy. Shadavilas Educational Institutions dates back to 1861. It had a glorious beginning with its founder, the illustrious Rao Bahadur Bakshi Narsappa, starting these institutions in Mysuru city. The pharmacy wing was started in the year 1992 with diploma in pharmacy course. Later in 2004, Bachelor of Pharmacy was added. PharmD course was inaugurated by former President of India, Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam, in the year 2012, with fully commitment to promote highest professional and ethical standards of pharmacy to cater the needs of pharmacy education in the country. Now I request Dr. Hanumantachar Joshi, Principal, Shadavilas College of Pharmacy, Mysuru, to deliver the welcome address. Over to you, sir. Sir, you are not audible, sir.
I am okay now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good afternoon to everyone. And first of all, I wish you a very happy Pharmacist Day. And before I start, there is one sad news also, I think all of you must be knowing. One of the greatest singer of India, a very wonderful human being, Shri S.P. Balasubramaniam is no more. So we wish the God to give him Sadgati. And continuing the program, it's my privilege to welcome the dignitaries over here. And first of all, we have with us Dr. Sharad Vakode, Professor and Head, Department of Pharmaceutical Sciences, Department of Pharmaceutical Chemistry of DIPSR University, a well-known university of the country. A hearty welcome to you, sir. And we also have with us Dr. Alluri Ramesh, a very famous personality, a good researcher, and a dynamic principal and a leader of pharmacy profession in the country. Dr. Ramesh, welcome to you. And Dr. Rajesh is not completely new. Many people who are in Facebook and other social media, they will be knowing. Very vociferous, very concerned for the pharmacy profession across the world. Joining from Saudi Arabia, John Hopkins Hospital. A hearty welcome to you, Dr. Rajesh.
Thank you.
And I also welcome our good friend and a good staff of Pharmacy Practice Department, Dr. Rosie, Dr. Neetu, then Vinay, and all my friends who have joined here, including the students. A very happy day to you. See, we are aware this year has been a very challenging for everyone because of the pandemic, that is COVID. Despite of that, the first person is facing the patients and the other people is pharmacists only everywhere. But the major issues, with us always is we are not in the limelight many of the times. But we are not in whether we are in the limelight or not. But our medicines are always in the limelight because people cannot survive without medicines, and without the medicines, the treatment and care will not be complete. So we are very happy to have Dr. Rajesh with us, and I am very much sure in the next half an hour he will be giving the very good information regarding the digital issues of pharmacy practice. So with this, I thank you all, especially our pharmacy practice staff, for arranging this webinar, and I am very sure it is going to be very useful for the students and as well as the delegates together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, and we also welcome to this webinar. Now I request today's chief guest, Professor Sharat Rakode, Delhi Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences and Research, New Delhi, to deliver the inaugural address. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Thank you. Very good afternoon to all. And I thank Professor Hanumantaraj Joshi sir and Sharda Vilas Trust for giving me an opportunity to interact with all of you over here. And if it's even I thank and welcome Mr. Rajesh as well as Dr. Alluri Ramesh sir in this nice occasion of World Pharmacist Day. So first of all the delegates who are attending this thing, all my teacher colleagues, friends and dear students, I wish all of you a very, very happy World Pharmacist Day. So this is a very good occasion on which all of us are gathered together on this platform. And in this year, all of you must be knowing, and all the WhatsApp groups are already flooded with the messages of Happy Pharmacist Day. So the FIP is the main authority or the body who has started this World Pharmacist Day. So its president Dominic Jordan has given this year's theme. FIP has given the theme of transforming global health. Okay, and this is very much suitable for this year's as a Pharmacist Day, especially for the Indian pharmacists, because not only one Indian pharmacist, all the pharmacists throughout world, because all of us are simply going through this pandemic year, post-COVID, even not post-COVID also, we are in this wave itself, we are going through this, and everybody is waiting for the more appropriate drugs, more and more effective drugs without any side effects, and especially we are waiting for vaccine. When vaccine will come to the market? When vaccine will come to the market? Although Russia has given the Sputnik one, so other vaccines are also in the good pipeline. So here, our role of this pharmacist is very, very crucial in this era. So as per the FIP, they have divided this pharmacist into these four broad categories. The pharmacy practitioners, what Rajesh sir is there, okay, and doing their great service to the humanity and society. The students who are completing their D-Pharm will join as a hospital pharmacist, community pharmacist over here. After B-Pharm also they are joining. So that is the best profession. And although they are maybe there as a retail pharmacist or in the hospital pharmacist, so they are playing important role. So that is pharmacy practitioners is the important constituent of this pharmacist fraternity. Then pharmaceutical scientists. So the scientists who are working in the pharmaceutical industries, okay, in the R&D departments, all these departments, so which are playing their important role in taking out these vaccines or newer drugs. So that is also playing a very important role. And next comes the people like us, Dr. Alluri Ramesh and Dr. Joshi, pharmacy educators and all my colleagues over here. So we are also playing important role in the development of these budding pharmacists. Okay. And lastly comes all the student delegates who are present over here, young pharmacist group. That is the broad categories given by the FIP. And the important role of this young pharmacist group is very, very important, because the whole future of pharma industry rests on your shoulders. And it is duty of all of us as a pharmacy educator that we train you people in such a way that you are best suitable for any type of conditions which are coming forward. Okay, so as far as the India is concerned, the India is very prominent and rapidly growing presence in the global pharmaceutical industry. It is the largest provider of generic medicines globally, and it occupies about 20% of the share in the global supply, and about 62% of the global demand of the vaccines are provided by the Indian pharma industries. So you must have heard of the
Sharat sir, you're not audible, sir.
I'm audible
Sir,
now?
you have switched off your mic.
Am I audible now?
Now
Sorry.
yes.
Sorry, by I think.
Yes, yes.
So India is ranked third worldwide for the production of as well as volume by 14th rank in value. Okay, so India is the only country with largest number of US FDA compliant pharma plants, and that is why US FDA has to open a special office in our Hyderabad, because we are having more than 262 pharma companies as well, including the APIs outside USA, which is having US FDA. So that is very good achievement for Indian pharma industry. And in India, we are having more than 2,000 WHA GMP certified or approved plants. Okay, and that is a very important achievement of pharma industry. So if you consider the the source, about 60,000 generic brands are provided by the Indian companies. 60 therapeutic categories are catered by the Indian pharmaceutical companies, and more than 500 different APIs are also produced by the Indian pharma companies. So the API industry is ranked third largest in the world, and it contributes to about 57% as per WHO list. So if you see the progress of Indian pharma industry, it's very progressive in nature, and India has got about 3,000 pharma companies with a strong network of about 10,500 manufacturing facilities, and the domestic pharmaceutical market turnover reached about 20 billions in 2019, and it is about 9 to 10% more than that of the 2018. That is very good achievement. Okay, so if you see the market size, okay, so Indian pharmaceutical sector is one of the growing sector, because in this pandemic you have seen that most of the industrial hubs or the industrial sectors are slowing decline in their production and revenues, other thing. But the only two sectors are coming forward is the agriculture, and the most important is the your pharma sector. We have seen that our basic needs was only roti, kapda, makan, but this pandemic has created another fourth thing, that is roti, kapda, makan or medicine. Okay, everybody is having all these earlier three things, but medicines needs to be there for each and every individual which are present in this earth, and that is the promise which India has taken, that yes, we are able to serve the total world with the Indian medicines, and that is why India is considered as a pharmacy of the world. Okay, so we are exporting about, pharma sector is expected to grow to about 100 US dollar, 100 billion US dollar. Okay, while another sector coming up is our medical devices, and it is growing to about 25 billion US dollar by 2025. This is the projected figure, because we have known that when this COVID wave started, we were having a crunch or the scarcity of the mask, ventilators, PPE kits. So all these things was uh, required, and we were facing some problem in procurement or getting the sub distribution of these things. But when our Prime Minister has requested all the pharma industries to go for it, even the another sector like Mahindra or so many other industries has started manufacturing the ventilators. So many budding scientists, so many universities has developed certain methods or certain uh, you can say that alternatives rather than the conventional ventilators also. Okay, several fabric industries turned into a manufacturer of these PPE kits. So that is the advantage of Indian, and now we are in a position to export this material to the other countries. Okay, and the pharmaceutical export from India stood at about 20.70 billion US dollars for this year 2020. So this includes the bulk drugs, intermediates, drug formulations, biologicals, Ayush and herbal products, as well as surgical products. So this is the important achievement. Okay. So even India's domestic pharmaceutical market turnout reached to about 1.4 lakh crores. That is 20.3 billion US dollars in 2019. Okay. Again, it is increasing. And US, if you consider the recent developments, the Union Cabinet has given nod for the direct foreign direct investment (FDI) into maximum sectors to a higher percentage also, which was not there earlier. But now it has opened or evolved the another door for the pharma industry. If you see the recent developments in May 2020 itself, Jubilant has a tie-up with the US-based Gilead Sciences for the development of this potential anti-COVID drug remdesivir, and they are supplying it to 127 countries, okay, of the world. Even the affordable medicines are provided to all the individuals under the heading of Pradhan Mantri Bharatiya Janaushadhi Pariyojana. Okay, so your Janaushadhi stores are playing important role, and their pharmacists present over there are equally important. So if you see recently, even armed forces has also created the post of pharmacist. Earlier they used to train themselves, their soldier itself, for providing this as a working as a pharmacist, but nowadays they are also recruiting the pharma people. So there are so many plenty. If you are seeing this assignment or what the growth which is observed, it is observed that there are great number of opportunities, plenty opportunities are available with this budding pharmacist, because we are having a different sectors now. Biosimilars, biotechnology sector, vaccine, it is developing like anything over here. And if you see the projected growth of this Indian pharmaceutical industry is about 9 to 12%, which is expected in the next coming 5 years. Okay, so the domestic sales are also increasing. Indian government is also expanding and investments, as well as the procurement of medicines for the hospitals. They are developing hospitals. They are creating so many posts also in the medical sector, which was lying vacant from so many years earlier also. And now that it is observed in this pandemic that they need to focus more and more on this sector of pharma. So it is very good opportunity, and I expect that all the pharma educators like us will take this opportunity as a challenge and train all the students in such a way that they will fulfill the requirement of the not only India but for the world also. Okay, so I request all the student delegates over here to keep themselves uh, updated, because that is the most important thing which is required nowadays. Unless until you are updated, you will not be able to serve Indian pharma industry or even the other pharma industry of the world. So whether you are joining as a uh, pharmacist in hospital, whether you are working in your own pharmacy shop, or you are working in the pharmaceutical industry, So if you are doing your job ethically, properly, all of us will get the weightage in the society. Our role is simply, we are saying that yes, people are only respecting the doctors, medical professionals, and not pharmacists. So we need to earn that thing. So I think Rajesh sir will tell that what type of pharmacies they are having in their countries, US, Canada, Malaysia, everywhere, and their role of the pharmacist is very critical, and they are highly updated. With his lecture itself, we can see that what type of softwares they are using, what type of mechanisms, or the complete team is there in the hospitals or pharmacies, and so they are highly connected with the society, to the patients, and that is why they are very well respected by the society, very well paid also. So if we see here, medicine gives life to the patients, we the pharmacist gives life to the medicines. So with these words, I mm, again wish all of you a very happy pharmacist day. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your kind words and also on detailing about pharmacy profession in India and throughout the world. Thank you, sir. Now I request our guest of honor, Dr. Ramesh Alluri, Principal, Vishnu Institute of Pharmaceutical Education and Research, Narsapur, Telangana, to speak few words about this webinar. So you're not audible, sir.
Thank you. I think basically I would like to thank Joshi for inviting me as one of the guests, and secondly, making all the pharmacists across the globe to interact with each other on this online platform. I strongly believe that things change rapidly, and now we are in a stage where we all are meeting online and celebrating. So I think thank you, Joshi, for connecting all the dots of pharmacies here and making the spread to the international platforms. Earlier, we used to conduct hardly one or two lectures from an international perspective, but now I can see the energy levels of Joshi has shooted up, and I think he keeps on rocking throughout the WhatsApp which we get, and I think we all are proud of you, Joshi, for being a part with you and sharing the same college. And thank you so much. Secondly, I would like to thank the chief guest of today's function, Dr. Sharad sir. I think you have given a wonderful message. I think you have given an encyclopedia of what pharmacy is and what is the requirement. So I think now you made me very happy. I can only just give a piece of advice, right? Apart from pharmacy, I believe, because you have covered A to Z. And thank you, and we'll be connected, sir. And the most important bridegroom of today's function, Dr. Rajesh sir from John Hopkins. Thank you for being here and supporting through live to all the students in India, because I think as earlier we told, we have covered many countries, and I have seen several pharmacy stores across. But the dream of the developed pharmacy is yet to come. And thanks to the phases of changes happening, and we are also revolutionizing ourselves fastly. And definitely, your inputs will definitely make a mark and definitely will help the students across India to grow to the next level. So, thank you very much, dear Rajesh sir, for your valuable time. And I think today is World Pharmacist Day, as all of us are aware. We proudly say Happy Pharmacist day to all of you. And I think you all know why we celebrate these days. And I strongly believe this is to thank each and every pharmacist across the globe who are committed for the health of the whole world, I believe. Because, you know, we are more than 10 million pharmacists across the world. And we have the biggest pharmaceutical market, as already Sir has told, but I don't want to stress on that. We have more than $300 billion of market, and now the world is looking at us. Maybe they may look at a doctor, a nurse, or a compounder for a smaller area, but if you think across the line, you know, the only person who is working 24/7 is the pharmacist.
Yeah.
Throughout the corona period, pandemic, right, throughout the lockdown, and during any of the seasons, you can only see that pharmacist shop is the only one which will be running during bunds also.
Yeah.
Because this is the need of the hour. We should thank each and every one of us, and we should feel pride that we are working 24/7. And have you ever seen a pharmacy shop doing a dharna? Never. Because we all are for the nation. And we are working at the cost of the health. So, secondly, I would like to share that we are the ones who should be very keen in spending valuable time to the patient, that is the customer. And thanks to the PCI for their efforts. And I think now we are becoming strong in MTM services, that is medication therapy management. Earlier we were only dispensing the drugs, and now the PharmD has evolved, and it is now making the people globally recognized. And maybe in a decade or so, we are 100% sure that we will outmark even the developed countries. Like how Sir has told that India has got the highest foreign FDA, US FDA units. And one day is going to come shortly where we will be the #1 in the world. And that is the reason why you can see today FIP president also addressing particularly the Indian continent. The reason is that we are the future of the world. So I humbly request all the pharmacists to have faith in yourself and to get the skills required for the coming up environment. And I strongly believe life is a marathon. You cannot just say my first year is over or my project work is over and I can rest. No, life is a marathon. You need to run for the next 42 years in your life once you get the degree, and definitely you are going to see the pleasure you are enjoying. And I am enjoying every day, like I believe the rest of the guests here, and you can see the Josh in Joshi also always making us always energetic, right? So please understand here, everything we do should make a mark. And to make a mark in the society, we need to have that confidence where we can serve the public. And to get that confidence, we all should have a personal revolution among ourselves. It is not me or Joshi or your teacher who can partly give you some inputs. But please understand one thing, that skill is the one which need to be learned inherently. And it is the one where we cannot enforce anything. Until you have it, inside your heart, you will not develop it. And I'm very happy to share a few minutes of my time today with my friends in US who has many retail counters there. And I was asking that I need to share a message to my students. What is it that in India we need to do more to help the patients? They told only one thing, that is, we need to create confidence in the patients that we are sufficiently knowledgeable. However, we don't spare so much time in spending or in dispensing the drug and not sharing the information required. So that is the only small difference which can produce a sea change. And I'm happy that now various chains of, and I think in future we will still have that situation. And second important thing what he mentioned is that we should have a strong database which is shared for each and every individual across the globe. And when I asked in detail what is that and how can it make a change, he told that each and every prescription taken by a person 1 year back also can be known to us, and any side effects or any adverse effects which were observed are noticed and recognized and they are accounted. However, in India, we don't have that system. And until we make a database of a person, an individual, I think that is going to see the future. And I'm happy that some of the very big companies like Call Health in Hyderabad and some of the other companies now are coming up with creating data centers. And once you have the data, what Dr. Ramesh or Mr. Joshi or some X are taking throughout their lifetime, they can have a periodic check and they can see what is the diagnostics relation to the drug medicament dispensed. And that is a futuristic area where we as a pharmacist should take a call. Last message which I want to be very clear is that digitalization is the topic of today, and I think Dr. Rajesh will throw more light on it. But I always say one thing, that artificial intelligence cannot replace the different, what we can say, the original versus the junk. So it is always required a human effort in addition to the distillation. Distillation can make us have a very good thought process, easier process and convenience. However, there are certain difficulties again. So once you know what is distillation, I think you are 50% ready. And once you keep your personal effort or the skill in addition to the distillation, you will be the miracle of the future. So I think Joshi has been taking many lectures. I get every day one or the other things. But I personally believe that we as teachers also should change and we should get converted to the cookbook labs. I think this is the future where we should make them learn more instead of giving more lectures and giving more information. So I lastly conclude that these lectures should make us change and revolutionize from a normal, if you compare it ourselves as a dog, from a normal dog to a sniffer dog, whom we can readily predict and detect the changes happening. And that is how a normal pharmacist versus a skilled pharmacist makes lots of difference. And to make this difference, all of you who are going to listen to this lecture are going to be the ones who are going to rise from the rest of the crowd. So please don't take these things as a simple note and keep your mute and video off and enjoy, like some of the times we all do also, right? So, but please understand, to make yourself as a skilled pharmacist, these 1 hour of your life can change the value. So with this few words, I always say that during these unprecedented pandemic times, that please understand that life is a difficult examination, and don't try to copy others, because everyone has his own question paper. Thank you so much to all the team here, and wish you all the best. Thank you so much.
Nice. Very good. बहुत अच्छा.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, sir. Thank you for sharing valuable thoughts on World Pharmacist Day and for the well wishes for today's webinar, sir. Now, without further ado, we will turn the time over to today's speaker, Mr. Rajesh Talaparamat, Manager Inpatient Medication Management Services at John Hopkins Aramco Healthcare, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. I take this privilege to introduce our speaker, Mr. Rajesh Talaparamat. Mr. Rajesh Talaparamat hails from Kerala, the southern state of India. He has completed his B.Pharm during 1991 to 1995 and M.Pharm during 1996 to 1998, both from Faculty of Pharmacy, Sri Ramakrishna Institute of Paramedical Sciences. Mr. Rajesh started his career as a lecturer in pharmacy at Jesus College of Pharmacy, Mysuru, during 1990. Since October 2000, he is with Pharmacy Services Department, Saudi Aramco Medical Sciences Organization, currently known as John Hopkins Aramco Healthcare. During his tenure at John Hopkins Aramco Healthcare, he has been assigned with different responsibilities, including clinical, non-clinical, and administrative areas. Rajesh Talamparabat had worked as decentralized pharmacist for CICU, SICU, NICU, PICU, and other general patient care areas. Served as member, Pharmacy Quality Improvement Team, senior member in Pharmacy Advisory Council, and in many committees responsible for reviewing the clinical pathways, including clinical pathway for COVID-19, acute coronary syndrome, congestive heart failure, and for bariatric surgery. He is well experienced in vancomycin dosing, TPN ordering, and monitoring in adult population and in process of medication reconciliation. He has been served as a preceptor in hospital pharmacy and internal medicine for students from King Faisal University, Saudi Arabia, and trained many young pharmacists, pharmacy residents, university internees, and summer students across the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He is actively involved in pharmacy services divisions, continuing education program, provided number of clinical teaching sessions within the organization. His research areas are the development of professional, community, hospital, and clinical pharmacy in developing countries, technology innovations in pharmaceutical care, healthcare economics and related projects, adverse drug event monitoring and reporting, drug-induced diseases, and quality improvement in healthcare. Currently, he is working as the manager, inpatient medication management services at John Hopkins Aramco Healthcare, Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Now I request Mr. Rajesh Talaparamat to deliver the talk over to you, sir.
Thank you so much for your wonderful introduction. I think we are on the previous slides before.
Yeah, what a very big biodata, sir. And I know it's not easy to get a medicine without a prescription in the rest of the world. And I hope now you should focus on that, right? Thank you.
I think your still slide is showing up there.
Yes, sir. I think your slide is not visible.
Okay.
You need to
Do you want me to?
You can screen share it, Mr. Rajesh.
Okay, will that be okay? Okay,
Yeah.
okay, that's great then.
Totally fine. Yeah.
Is it visible now? Is it? Can you see the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
So you can see that. Okay, great. So once again, thank you so much for your great introduction for this wonderful International Pharmacist Day. And I don't have any financial discourses to produce today related to this presentation. And this is a wonderful day where we are talking about the transforming the global health, International Pharmacist Day 2020. And FIP has given a wonderful theme for the year 2020 for transforming global health. And on top of that, if you remember the speech from our Prime Minister of India during the last Independence Day on 15th of August, every Indian will get a healthcare ID. Every time you visit a doctor or a pharmacy, everything will be logged into this card. From the doctor's appointment to the medication, everything will be available in your health profile. So this was one of the very promising statement as a pharmacist or any healthcare worker during the last Independence Day from the Prime Minister of India. And I'm sure that this particular statement gives a lot of hope for all the healthcare workers in India. So coming to my topic, transforming the healthcare informatics. So we'll have a brief introduction about the topic, then we'll go for the some interesting reports from the Institute of Medicine. We talk about the electronic health records, computerized provider order entry, a little bit about the clinical decision support systems, various dispensing technologies, and the point of care barcoding as well as the radio frequency identification. So these are the few topics we're going to cover on this small presentation. When we talk about the healthcare, especially in terms of quality as well as in terms of reporting, we always look at the Western world, specifically to the US market. The reason is that most of our Asian countries, like either India or any of other Asian, South Asian countries, we don't have a reporting system properly. If you ask me what is the number of medication errors reported in India on daily basis, we don't have an answer for that. So we don't report anything in India. To an extent, we tend to hide the report, especially the reports related to the medication errors or the medical errors in general. During 1999, there was a very important report published by the Institute of Medicine, and the title is "To Err is Human." This particular report was a real game changer, and they were talking about the medication errors, and they said the medication errors represent the largest single cause of medical errors in the hospitals or healthcare sector. And the people, actually the public, were really shocked when they hear about more than 7,000 deaths happening only in US healthcare sector due to the medication errors. That's really huge number. And one of the recommendations from the Institute of Medicine report during 99, the first report from the Institute of Medicine was to implement proven medication safety practices to avoid such situations. And here comes the second report in 2001. After a couple of years, another report came out. The title for this report was "Crossing the Quality Chasm, the New Healthcare System for 21st Century." And in this second report from the Institute of Medicine, they were talking about the use of healthcare information technology for redesigning the whole healthcare system. in US healthcare sector. And a couple of specific recommendations made by the Institute of Medicine during those days were to implement electronic health records, as well as the computerized either provider or the prescriber order entry, what we call it as CPOE. So this was a real game changer in 2001 Institute of Medicine report, and which is really related to the pharmacy practice as well as in terms of medication safety. The themes from Institute of Medicine reports were the human factor engineering, specifically mentioning about the evaluating as well as improving the safety, efficiency, and the robustness of the work systems, health information infrastructure, especially they were talking about the increased interoperability within and across the system. We're going to talk about the interoperability in later slides, and the meaningful use of healthcare information technologies for a proper clinical decision making. And specifically, the information protection is very important in the Western world. And they were talking about the privacy and the confidentiality and the appropriate use of healthcare information which is coming from the public. Based on a publication which was published in 1995 in JAMA, if you look at the number of preventable adverse drug events, that's the medication errors. When it comes to the medication error, we always say that medication errors are related to the pharmacy, or the pharmacists are the only person involved in the medication error. That's not true, in fact. If you look at the statistics, if you look at the numbers, it'll be really shocking. The reason why I took this statistics is because this was a paper published in 1995. These are the days where the US were not using the automation and other technologies. They were just following the very primitive unit dose systems and the ordering systems. So I think that's a system which was still following in Indian hospitals. If you look at these numbers, you will see majority of the medication errors are originating from at the time of ordering as well as prescribing. That's a 56%. It's a huge number. And then comes to the medication administration, which is the 34% of the errors are originating during the medication administration. That means if you calculate this one, approximately 90% of the medication errors are out of pharmacy's hat. And rest is only 10%, which is 4% during the dispensing as well as the 6% at the time of transcribing the medication orders into the system. So this 90% of the medication errors happening in the hospital sectors are unattended at this point of time in Indian healthcare system. And here comes the importance of healthcare informatics. So healthcare informatics, it's a science. It's an interdisciplinary study of design, development, adoption, application of IT-based innovations in healthcare services, delivery, management, and planning. So basically, this is how the system or the science which utilizes the healthcare or which utilize the computerized systems or the softwares in healthcare field. So as we all knew that healthcare system is so complex nowadays. Day to day, we are observing new molecules in the market. We are observing newer biological products. We see a lot of biosimilar products. We see a lot of new procedures, new diagnostic procedures, new investigations, new instruments are coming to the healthcare. So that means we are working in a very, very complex environment. So do we think that we can handle such data in the healthcare? It's impossible for a human being to handle such a complex situation in healthcare. And this complexity actually will lead to a lot of errors. So that's why we need to use effective systems to control such systems. So for example, you need to use the latest technologies. You need to use a lot of softwares which interact with each other. And I'm sure that you might have you had a chance to visit the medical records rooms in the hospitals. This is a place which I really don't like to go because it's such a messy place in the hospital. In most of the hospitals, especially where you are working in a hospital where a lot of paper-based documentations are used. A pile of files which is not organized, which is scattered around. If you want to see something from these files, it's really becoming difficult actually. And the most important thing is these are handwritten orders or the patient files. So these are all paper-based. The traditional health records in our hospital, most of the hospitals are totally paper-based handwritten records. One of the disadvantages for this kind of documentation is, especially as a pharmacist, which I find is that data retrieving is really time consuming. Sometimes it's really become impossible because you might need some data, especially the previous medication history, the generic history, or for example, if you're doing a chemo, you might need a cumulative dose to find out the cumulative dose. So such situations, data retrieving from the paper-based medication files or the medical files become really impossible. And there is all chance of possible loss of data. Accessibility is totally different actually. And on top of everything, the patient, they really matters about the patient confidentiality, the confidentiality of the documents which is given to the hospital. So maintaining patient confidentiality is really difficult in paper-based environment. Anybody can take a scan of those medical files using a mobile, and they can put it in a public platform. So this is possible actually. So maintaining confidentiality, the patient confidentiality, become really impossible in paper-based environment. So that comes importance of the electronic healthcare records, in fact. So we call it as a EHR, which is electronic health records. This is actually a digital version of the patient's paper charts. So the paper-based documentation, now we got a digital version of those medical records now. So I will not just say that these are just a digital version. It has a lot of features, in fact, which will help the pharmacist, which is going to help the physicians and the nursing and any other healthcare workers. So it's real time. It's a real-time info. It's a patient-centered records that makes the information available instantly and securely to the authorized users, because this is very important, because you'll get information very fast. It's a patient-centered real-time one instantly. Once a lab is reported, you can see the lab report immediately. And it's a secure one because you need to log on to the system using a username or a password, as well as, or sometimes you'll have to use the bio-ID, something like a fingerprint scanning, or sometimes an iris scan, or sometimes you can use a card access for certain systems. So basically, this is a secured system compared to the paper-based documents. And it contains the medical and treatment histories of a patient. So it might contain different information, which includes health information, general health information of the patient. It might include some of the administrative information related to the patient. And also, on top of these things, it might have some of the legal documents recorded in the health records. So EHR system is built to go beyond the standard clinical data collected in a provider's office and can be inclusive of a broader view of patient care. So what's most interesting in the EHR, electronic health record, is that it's really consistent and it provides an intelligent environment for the record keeping, in fact. And it provides really a quick access to the patient records. Just putting a medical records number or putting a national ID, or you can even have something like your Aadhaar card number or a passport number. You can access the individual person's medical records. Again, securely sharing electronic information, especially this is very important if you're transferring the care between the hospital. You transfer one patient from a hospital to a second hospital. In normal scenario in Indian hospitals, probably you have to carry the whole paper-based file. Sometimes you don't carry everything. You just do the handover verbally, but those verbal handovers may not be complete. So you can securely transfer the data from a health system to another health system. And also for us being a pharmacist, the most important thing is that it provides an environment for reliable prescribing, and which is really legible and complete documentation it provides. So you don't have to really handle with the handwritten prescriptions anymore if you have a electronic health record in your organization. So this is really interesting. And on top of all these things, it provides, as we mentioned earlier, it provides privacy and security for the patient data. The privacy and the security of the patient data is really important, because any breach of data will put the organization as such into trouble, legal issues, and you will probably have to pay millions if there is a data leak from your organization. And also, as an organization or a business firm, it improves the employees' productivity. Probably you can handle more prescriptions at a time, or you can have more issues resolved in a shorter period of time. So that's why it improves the efficiency of the employees. And also in the business field, the meeting will have, every employees will have a business call. So it will help, an electronic environment will help all of us to meet the business calls early or in a proper frame of time. And on top of everything, it reduces the cost. I'm sure that the implementation cost is really high, but if you look at the long-term investment, yes, it reduces the cost. The typical example is that in terms of medications, so you see a lot of instances where the patients are taking medications, same generic medications under different brands from different physicians. We call it as a physician shopping. So our patients will have a habit of going, seeing one physician to the next physician to the third physician. So basically, we don't have a family physician or the primary care built in our environment. So basically, they go to the one physician in this week. Probably next week they will go to the second person or to the third person. Probably they are getting the same medication from using the 3 prescriptions actually. So if you have an electronic system, you can avoid all those confusions, because the data which is collected by the first prescriber can be shared with the second prescriber, which can be shared again with the third prescriber. So the patient will get a lot of benefit out of this electronic prescribing patterns. So what are the core elements in electronic health records? Which is a basic patient demographic, which includes the patient data like patient's age, the body weight, etc. And the previous history of the patients, like problem list and the clinic appointment. So what are the appointments the patient had? What are the issues? What are the clinical issues the patient had before? Medication history, that's very important for us. So Dr. Ramesh already mentioned about the medication history, the importance of medication history. It's not even a 1 year. You can even collect unlimited time, the data from unlimited time beyond. And you can find out what are the cumulative dose of medications been taken by the patient. What is the generic history patient was on during the course of treatment, even after the discharge from the hospital, in the ambulatory care settings. You can find all those medication history even beyond years before. So that's very important in terms of being a pharmacist for us to look at the patient medication history. And we'll have all the diagnostic report ready for the pharmacist to look at. Especially we'll be interested in so many things, which includes the renal functions and the hepatic functions and the EKGs, etc. So all the diagnostic reports are available in one click for the pharmacist to review. And on top of that, we are involved in a lot of specialized programs nowadays as a pharmacist. For example, we do a lot of clinical consultations nowadays, which includes consultation for the pharmacokinetics. For example, vancomycin dosing, etc. So the pharmacists take over the pharmacokinetic consultation, that the physician just make a one-line order which says that, initiate vancomycin per the pharmacy protocol. So that's how the most of the organization does now. So from that point, the pharmacists take over the process, in fact. So we will review the medication profile completely. We will look at the labs, and this is a pharmacist who come up with the doses. You fix the dose based on the patient body weight, and you fix the frequency of administration based on the patient's creatinine clearance, and you determine the therapy, and you determine the labs, when the lab need to be ordered, when the trough need to be ordered, and when you have the trough, you are the one as a pharmacist to modify the patient therapy. The only role here is to look at for the physician is to initiate the therapy, and you keep on communicating with the physicians as well as the infectious disease specialist, and see what I need to stop it, or you just keep on updating through the progress note, consultation notes about the progress of the therapy, and at one point you can say that it's time to stop. So this is a pharmacist's responsibility in such situations, especially when you have the consultation. So we do a consultation on day-to-day basis for the pharmacokinetics. We do it for the for the TPNs, the total parenteral nutrition. We do it for the anticoagulation. So these are some of the examples. And another beauty here is the allergy, the documentation of drug allergies and contraindication. So we know from our system back home in India that we have no record of such systems. Say, for example, if I'm experiencing an anaphylaxis reaction or for example, an angioedema from a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, how do a second healthcare worker, for example, when you have a second visit to the hospital or any other clinics, how do they knew that you had this event in the past? So as of now, we don't have any such systems unless if the patient can vocalize or verbalize such events, if it is possible. In most of our environment, in Indian context, I don't expect the patient to talk about drug allergies and contraindications. So currently, we don't have a system for that. If you have an electronic system, just type the patient identification, put your medical records number or the patient identification. You will get all the data. What are the events the patient had in the past? For example, patient had any penicillin allergy in the past, any contraindication, any anaphylaxis, any issues like angioedema or any other side effects or allergies. So everything is documented, in fact. Food allergies, drug allergies, contrast media allergies, everything is documented in the system. And as a pharmacist or as a clinical pharmacist, we'll have a lot of interest in the laboratory data for your day-to-day activities, for your day-to-day rounds. So we'll have all the data ready for you to use in front of the electronic health record of the patient. And finally, electronic health records will contain summaries and reports, for example, admission summary, the transfer summaries, reconciliations, in fact, and the discharge summaries as well as the death summary. So it have all the reports related to the patient health status. Once again, this is a cartoon from the cartoon stock. And this is how a physician do an eye test, in fact. So nowadays, you don't have to deal with this kind of handwritten prescriptions anymore. So you can just see that the system is developed nowadays. Most of the hospitals, they tend to depend on the computerized provider order entry, what we call it as a CPO. Some of the people, they say that computerized physician order entry, but in fact, I would tend to call it as a computerized provider order entry because the order entry can be done by either physician himself or and legal assignee to the physician. So it's a promising technology that allows the physician to enter the medication directly into the computerized or the ESR systems. So what is the beauty here is that number one, you don't have to deal with the handwritten prescriptions anymore. Handwritten prescriptions, yes, it creates a lot of trouble in our healthcare system. One of the main source of medication errors in Indian context, in fact, and communication become really impossible with a handwritten prescription in certain situations. If you're working in a hospital, for example, a Joint Commission accredited hospital, they have something called as international patient safety goals and 6 international patient safety goals. So one of the most important international patient safety goals in Joint Commission accredited hospital is that to have an effective communication between the healthcare providers as well as with the patient. So this handwritten prescriptions. So if you're not able to, if your second provider or third provider is not able to read your prescriptions or your notes or a progress note written in the patient file, that communication become really impossible and then could lead an inappropriate decision related to the patient care. So a CPO fundamentally changes the medication ordering process in healthcare environment, in fact. So what happens here in an ideal environment for a computerized physician order entry or the provider order entry? So basically, a provider transcribes the medication orders into the system. It could be a physician directly or an authorized provider, as I said earlier. It could be a physician directly, a pharmacist, or a nurse on behalf of the physician, what we call it as a legally authorized healthcare provider. So they can place a medication order in the system. So there are main 3 important steps in the medication management system in most of the healthcare systems. So number 1 is the transcription stage, which is the provider put the medication orders into the system. A smart system, EHR or the CPOE, can give you a lot of information at the time of transcribing. That means at the time of order entry itself, the physician will get a lot of pop-ups and alerts related to the medication therapy, which includes the duplication of therapies, the drug allergies, the contraindication, drug-drug interactions, drug-disease interactions, and the drug feed interactions. So these are some of the examples. Dose alerts, for example, if you are putting an adult dose for a neonatal patient, you will be getting a stopover there, something called as a force functionality. So the system will stop you there. So these are some of the beautiful functionalities available for the clinicians along with the computerized provider order entry. So then the orders, once it is finalized by the physician, the orders will flow into the pharmacist's queue, in fact. So again, pharmacists or the clinical pharmacists play a major role in actually, I'm sure that we all heard about the Swiss cheese model in safety, in fact. So basically, the pharmacist here, he locates or stays as a barrier between a provider and the dispensing or a patient, so that we'll have a safe transmission of medications to the patient. So pharmacists provide a detailed clinical review at the point of his medication review. So all the aspects which is done by the physician again will be repeated once again, which is really more careful than the physician, because physicians, they tend to override the alerts. They are totally usually they fed up with the allergy. The alert fatigues, in fact, so they tend to override the systems in most of the healthcare environment. So pharmacists, they will not do that. They provide a very detailed clinical review at this point. So that means they review the therapeutic indication, they review the appropriateness of the medications, they review the labs, the renal functions, hepatic function, drug allergies, the previous histories, etc. during this clinical review. Then once it is approved, verified by the pharmacist, it goes to the dispensing queue, in fact. So it will be either going directly to the pharmacy for preparation. Most of the hospitals nowadays, they are having automated drug dispensing system. So once it is verified by the pharmacist, it goes to the server in the automated drug dispensing system. So if the medication is available in the unit, so the nurse can log on and remove the medication from those ADDS or automated drug dispensing systems. So there will be a few medication which is not available. Then those medication will be routed to the pharmacy, to either the central pharmacy, or it will go to the sterile compounding area, or sometimes we'll prepare some of the items as a non-sterile. For example, the items or the formulation which is not commercially available. For example, some of the creams, some of the liquid oral formulations, say like which is used in the in neonatal and pediatric patients, or the patient with tube feeding, will have to use the liquid. So such medications are prepared within the pharmacy as a compounding or the non-sterile compounding, or if it is an IV medication, that will be prepared in a sterile compounding area, or the TPNs, for example, or a chemotherapeutic agents. So those items, everything will be prepared by the pharmacy and delivered to the nursing station. So this is a whole medication management system happening in most of the reputed hospital. Most of the hospitals, we got a real digital nurse nowadays. So as we discussed earlier, so the things with the aspects of pharmacist review, which includes the appropriateness, the indications and contraindications, the drug allergies, sensitivities, drug interactions, etc. So these are the small aspects which will be reviewed by the pharmacist. So the beauty for such system is that once you have documented something, for example, a drug allergy or sensitivities, it stays until the patient is out of your system. That means until the patient dies or will be retired from their systems. So, and whenever the patient come back to you, to your system for a consultation or to your clinics, you can see all those data. So you can see all those data and interactions which is documented in the previous admissions. So everything is possible. You can track everything. So what happened? Who administered the medication? What was the time of administration? What are the route of administration? What are the site of IV injection? Was it a central line? Was it the peripheral line? What kind of tubings patient had? If the patient had a Foley's catheter, so oral nasogastric tube. So all this information in the past you can retrieve within a touch of time. One of the real helpful fact here is the medication reconciliation. So basically, the medication reconciliation happens at the time of main transition of cares within the hospital, in fact. So there are like 4 or 5 areas or 4 or 5 times where the medication reconciliation happening or the transition of care is happening. Then the most important one is the admission to the emergency room or to the hospital. So that's the time we do a reconciliation. So reconciliation means you'll have a list of medication the patient was taking at home, and that's going to be compared or reconciled with the medication which the patient is going to take during the time of admission, or will be compared, and then the pharmacist as well as the physician will come to an agreement that, okay, this is a final list of medication patient has to take at this point of admission. So basically, admission is one of the main transition of care, and then you'll have to do repeat this process at the time of transfers. Transfers means transfer between the different care level. That means if the patient is transferred from one unit to a critical care unit, or transfer back from critical care unit to the general floor. So this is a care level, different care level, in fact. So patient condition deteriorated. So there could be some medication which need to be stopped. Or if the patient is moving to an ICU, you might need to start some of the new medication. For example, inotropes. You might need to start an vasopressin. You might need to start a dopamine infusion, or you might need to start any other infusions or the electrolytes. So medication which is used in the critical care areas could be different from what the patient is taking. So basically, that's the time you again go for a reconciliation. You compare the medication, what the patient was taking, and then what the patient is going to take in the new critical care areas. And some of the medication might need to be stopped because, for example, if the patient becomes septic, the hypotensive, you'll have to stop the medication. Some of the medications like antihypertensive, ACE and ARBs, etc. So transfer is another stop. Then comes to the post-operative. If the patient had a surgery, general anesthesia, when the patient come back to the floor again, we'll do another reconciliation. And apart from the admission, the next important step for the reconciliation or the point of reconciliation is the discharge, when the patient go home from the hospital. So we will be repeating the same process. The medication which the patient was taking at the time of admission or during the hospital stay will be compared with the medication the patient was taking at home before. So there could be a lot of changes happen during this case stay or admission for the medication in terms of medication. So you might be changing some of the dose, you might be stopping some of the medication, you might change some of the frequencies, or you might temporarily stop the medication at the time of admission. So all this has to be reconciled at the time of discharge, and you have to come up with a new list of medication or concise list of medication at the time of discharge. And this is applicable if you are transferring a patient to a different hospital or a facility. You have to transfer all those data to the other hospital. So these are the most important 4 or 5 steps where you have to do a complete medication reconciliation. So why I'm explaining this medication reconciliation process is that it becomes literally impossible if you do a medication reconciliation process with a paper-based documentation. It literally becomes impossible. For example, if you're getting an emergency admission, the patient is unconscious. You have no other way to get an information from the patient. You'll have to really depend on what's happening at that point of time. But if you have an electronic system, if the patient carries an ID, you are going to get all the information at one click about the patient. So, or sometimes we'll have a situation where the patient hides the information. So we had a real example with one of our admissions in a critical care area with during the cath. So once we had an admission and the patient, we started, this was like a ACS pathway. So acute coronary syndrome, patient admitted. And the first thing we start with the acute coronary syndrome in the emergency room is you give the 300 milligram aspirin, you start with the clopidogrel 300 milligram, or if you're planning for a cath lab, immediately you'll go beyond 300 milligram, you go up to 600 milligram clopidogrel, you'll start nitro infusion and send the patient directly to the cath lab. So during one of our admission, the moment we started the nitro infusion, we started seeing a sudden drop in patient BP. And there was no reason for that from the clinical point of view. Somehow we stopped the nitro infusion, we took the patient to the cath lab, we completed the procedure, next day we had the rounds. Again, we had no information about why the patient started dropping the BP. So after the round, we had a chance to chat with the family. Again, we didn't get any information. We especially asked the family and even the wife also, why are you taking any medication from outside? The family said no. Afternoon, I had a chance to chat with the patient himself again. So then interestingly, we found that the patient was on sildenafil on the previous day. So this is one of the drug interaction which is very common, you'll find it. So this kind of information, it is impossible to find out in such situations. So we talk about the clinical or the CPOE as well as the EHR. And one of the backbone for all these systems are what we call it as a clinical decision support system. So these are a system which works behind the screen, which help the healthcare providers, including the physicians and the pharmacists and the nurses, to make proper decisions about the patients. So this is a system that's designed to be a direct aid to the clinical decision making, in which the characteristics of an individual patient are matched to a computerized clinical knowledge base and the patient-specific assessment or recommendations, and then presented to the clinician or the patient for a decision, in fact. So it could be a situation where the patient is admitted with, for example, stroke. So the moment you identify the patient is diagnosed as a stroke patient, and then you can put it in the system. The moment you put your diagnosis in the system, you can see a lot of suggestions coming up. What is the procedure? What need to continue? For example, the pathways starting from A to C. For example, what are the labs you need to do immediately? The CT scans the things you must do it, and there are certain things you need to do it as an option. For example, the medications. So everything you can see in a single screen, and the physician can just do an electronic signature and proceed with that. So it makes a lot of efforts. It saves a lot of efforts for the clinician as well as any other healthcare workers. So the basic key components in an ideal clinical decision support system should help you for diagnostics. It should have alarm systems, or we call it as a force functionalities for the medication safety as well as the patient safety. It should help you for a disease management as well as the prescription drug control. There are dispensing technologies available. So we talk about the electronic health records, EHR. We talk about the CPOE, computerized provider order entries. So these are the technologies which uses the computerization in the hospitals. Now, coming to the pharmacist, we do a lot of technologies. We use a lot of technologies within the pharmacy, which includes the robotics and other technologies. As Dr. Ramesh mentioned, we use the artificial intelligence, in fact. So dispensing technologies within the pharmacy or the nursing stations. This is one of the systems we use in the operating room, in fact. So these are the systems. Automated pharmacy systems are designed for the centralized filling for the individual patient's prescriptions as well as the unit dose medication orders, centralized dispensing, and other purpose, in fact. So basically what's happening with the system is these softwares within the system is integrated with our EHR. So what is prescribed or ordered by a physician in EHR, which is reviewed by a pharmacist, which is approved by a pharmacist, those data will be transferred into the electronic or the automated dispensing systems softwares. So that means the nurse or any other healthcare workers can access the medication which is only reviewed or the pre-verified by the pharmacist. So here comes the importance of the pharmacy profession. So nothing will go to the patients unless it is reviewed by the pharmacist. So this is one of the mandatory thing, again, which come back to the patient safety as well as in the Joint Commission accreditation survey part. So every medication orders has to be reviewed and verified and approved by a pharmacist 24/7, irrespective of the time. There are a couple of exceptions here. For example, if the patient is in an emergency, for example, a code blue is running, those are the exceptions where the physicians can overcome the pharmacist review. They can administer the medication directly to the patient, or the physician is in a scrub, in a cath lab, or in an operating room. So these are the few exceptions where the pharmacist medication review is exempted. Otherwise, all the medication orders in a hospital, especially in a Joint Commission accredited hospital, has to be reviewed by a pharmacist. So this is a basic transition, in fact, from the healthcare, actually, a pharmacist transition, which emphasizes on the direct patient care. Changes in the healthcare system and the pressures to reduce the cost have created interest in the availability and the use of automated drug dispensing devices. So you might ask, actually, one of the questions might arise from the students that, is it going to affect my job? This is going to be an important question when it comes to the automated drug dispensing technologies as well as the automation and the computerization in the hospital sector. It's not going to happen. So the only focus during the implementation of technologies, the computerization, the EHR is to focus your area from a product-based focus to a direct patient care. That means you'll have more time to take care of the patients. You'll have to focus more on the clinical activities rather than the clerical as well as the dispensing activities. So the pharmacists, the professionals will be freed to do a lot of clinical activities rather than the clerical jobs. So these kind of technologies can be designed to minimize the opportunities for the medication errors, as well as the same design can create other often unanticipated opportunities for the medication. So doesn't mean that having a technology implemented in the hospital doesn't mean that you are totally working in an error-free environment. Errors could even happen because the system is designed by human beings. Always we need to remember that any of such system need to be customized, totally customized for your environment. A system which is working for a US healthcare system may not work well for an Indian system because we have a different socioeconomic status. So it may not work. We have different personalities working behind the screen to operate this kind of technologies as well as softwares. So it's a human being again operating this kind of system. So there's a possibility of error. One of the typical examples which happened in one of the US hospital recently was a nurse in a procedure area, in a CT scan, was trying to remove one of the medication. Actually, the medication which is ordered for that patient was midazolam. So she was trying to remove the medication in an automated drug dispensing system. She tried to remove using a brand name. So the brand name she used to search for the medication in this automated drug dispensing system was Versed, VERSAD. So what happens in this automated drug dispensing systems, if you type like a couple of first letters, it's going to give a list of medication with the same starting letters. So some of the medication which is appeared for this search was vecuronium, one of the drug, and that was the first drug appeared during her search. Vecuronium instead of Versed. Versed is midazolam, and vecuronium, we know that it's a neuromuscular blocker. And she didn't had a time to, or she didn't bother even to look at the medication generic, in fact, on read the labels. So she removed vecuronium. She administered the vecuronium as an IV push to the patient before the procedure. And unfortunately, in few minutes, patient caught it and died on the spot. So this kind of, and the case is already in the court, actually still going on in the court for the compensation. So this kind of events, sentinel event, could even happen in the most advanced environments with a lot of advanced technologies and dispensing technologies. So there's nothing called as a zero error field. So only thing is what you can do as a pharmacist or the quality persons that you promote, reporting the errors and the near misses. Another technology. So we talk about the medication dispensing. So another part is the medication administration. So one of the technology used in all over the world nowadays is the barcoded medication administration, which is, we call it as a BCMA, where we use the barcoding. So that means a barcoded medication administration technology was developed to decrease administration errors. So this technology is commonly used not only in medicine, it's used everywhere in the supermarket, everywhere you see. So every product you can see nowadays, it comes with a barcode, either 2D barcode or a single-digit barcode nowadays. So it helps a lot for the pharmacy, in fact, for preventing medication errors, especially during the administration. So basically what happens here is the nurse, the medication provided to the nurse from the pharmacy side or in the automated drug dispensing system, the individual doses, that means if you have 100 tablets of paracetamol, each tablet, each dose is, or each ampule, each vial will be barcoded. A readable barcode will be provided with each medication. So that's how we provide the medication to the nurses. So basically, by providing the barcode medication administration facility, so we will make sure that right patient is selected, because at the time of administration, nurse has to, if you remember the hospital admission nowadays, you'll see the first thing what they do from the emergency room is that they will provide a wristband for you. So that wristband contain your details, a basic demographic. Along with that, you can see a small barcode on that. So this barcode can be used all over the hospital. So you scan the barcode, make sure that you are approaching a right patient, or you're going to administer the medication to a right patient, and then you scan the medication. That will tell you, that point, it will tell you that you're going to administer the medication in a right dose, in the right drug, and the right time, and through the right route. So remember, see that whatever you do, for example, these 5 rights, the most important thing on top of everything is that you need to do the documentation also. So nurses or any healthcare workers has to do the right documentation. Always the patient has the right to refuse. So the barcoded medication administration, BCMA, provide the platform to administer the medication safely, scanning a barcode on the medication as well as on the patient wristbands. I'm just going to play a small video. How does the system looks like in some of the hospitals? You can see this.
Good morning, Casey. Good morning. I have your medications for you. Every nurse has a logon ID and a password, and then each nurse has a barcode identification card. The first screen that pops up is the med summary screen, and this is a reflection of the medications that have been ordered by the physician. Next, we are going to go to our active work list, which is a list of the medications the patient is scheduled to receive. We find the medication. In this case, it's Avastin or Lipitor, and we scan it. If I've selected the right medication, I get a green check mark, and I know that I can move on to the next medication. In this case, the order is for 300 milligrams, which is 1 tablet. This screen pops up to tell me that a fractional dose has been identified. So this stops the nurse, and she sees that she needs to break this tablet in half. The next step would be to ID the patient. I look at the name of the patient and I scan. The scan matches the patient. The nurse knows now she has the right patient and the right drugs. If I were to choose the wrong medication, I would scan and I would get a warning that the drug scan does not match the order. And if I were to scan the wrong patient, then this warning box would pop up and I would stop immediately.
So now you must be thinking why pharmacist is involved so deep into this process. In fact, the reason is that, especially when you're working in a Joint Commission accredited hospital, the medication management chapter in Joint Commission accreditation, pharmacy is the owner for that. That means wherever the medication is involved, either the administration or the procedures, if any medication is involved, the pharmacy is responsible to be answered. So that's why even the administration part it's a pharmacy chapter, in fact. So one of the other technology we can use which is comparatively less used, in fact, is the radio frequency identification, RFIDs, which is another common thing which you use in the supermarket. And you can see that if you try to run away from a textile shop with, for example, with a T-shirt, this is going to give an alarm at the gate. So this is basically the same technology is used here. So we call it as a RFID, so the radio frequency identification technology. So it can help to provide a quick way to retrieve the information, track the pharmaceuticals or the items in the supply chain, and to help avoid the cost associated with the counterfeit or adulterated medication. Some of the manufacturers in certain countries, they use RFIDs on the formulation itself. So this is how the RFID the tag looks like on the medication. This is a enlargement, but it's going to be a very tiny object. So that means keeping of the track of objects using a digitally encoded tags and the digital database that contains the information about the every tag object. So basically, the hospital should be equipped with the RFID readers all over the hospitals. It should be remote readers, in fact. So one of the beauty with the RFID tagging is that, see, in barcoding, in BCMA, one of the disadvantages we see that you have to individually scan each and every barcodes. So every tablet has to be scanned individually. But when it comes to RFIDs, RFID readers can read thousands of radio frequencies at the same time. So you don't need to bring a reader next to the patient or next to the tablet. So this can be automatically read. So this is one of the advantages of RFIDs compared to the barcode administration. So basically, in the medication administration, what happens is that basically the patient identification is done by scanning the barcode on the wristband. Then you scan the medication, identify that it's the right patient, right medication. And at the time, if there is any alerts appearing, for example, any contraindications or the safety alerts, you have to attend. The nurse has to attend at this point of time. If nothing, go ahead and administer the medication. Then finally, this will be documented automatically. So the beauty here is with the barcoded medication administration or the RFIDs, the administration time on the EMR or electronic medication records will be a real-time one. So electronic medication administration records, so what we call it as EMRs. So this is a digital form of the administration records. Is the report that serves as it's a legal document for the drug administration to the patient at the facility by the healthcare professional, and the EMR is part of the patient permanent record on the medical record. So basically, whenever you scan it, the barcode, or when you document manually on the system, it will be documented in a place what we call it as electronic medication administration records. We call it as simplified as EMR. So EMR is a patient medication administration document. That is a legal document. If you have any problem later in the stage, you'll have to produce this document, or you can use it for the investigation purpose even. So why we are using all these technologies, either EMR or the CPOEs or the EHRs or the BCMA technologies or the RFIDs. So basically, such technologies has been found that it can enhance this patient safety. So it will decrease overall rate of ADEs as well as the rate of transcription errors. And these technologies also reduce the harmful impact to the patient caused by the medication administration. Remember, in the previous slides, we said 34% of the medication errors are originating at the time of medication administration. 56% of the medication errors are originating at the time of prescribing. So we'll have a CPOE which help the physician to a computerized prescribing. We will have a BCMA scanning or the barcoded scanning or RFIDs to document the medication administration, to identify the patient, to identify the correct dose administered, so that it's been proven by studies, by the papers, that this kind of technology, electronic technology, will improve the patient safety. One of the beauty or one of the characteristics which we are expecting from such system is that interoperability of healthcare system. That means if we have a system, a healthcare system or the hospital system in Mysore, so that system should be able to positively communicate with, to a certain extent. You will not be able to communicate completely, but to a certain extent, to a required level of communication should be able to do that between other hospitals or the other healthcare providers. So what we call it as interoperability. So whenever you try to procure electronic health records or any of the software systems related to the healthcare, you always look into the interoperability, whether it can operate with the main system in the hospitals or the other hospital, how long it can interact with other technologies in the hospitals, and how can interact with or it can exchange the data cohesively. So a data exchange and standards should permit the data to be shared across the clinician, the lab, hospital, pharmacy, and regardless of the application or the application. So a second or third hospital could be using a different software, but still that software in that second hospital should be able to communicate with the first hospital, so that you can extract some of the data which is relevant to the patient care, immediate patient care, to the second hospitals, to the second care provider. So basically, a minimum level or required level of data exchange should be possible between the systems. Imagine if you are traveling from Mysore and going to Delhi, and you had a reason to go for a hospital admission. Think about the beauty of having all your data in one click in a Delhi hospital. So this is what we are expecting from such electronic system in the hospital. So interoperability means that ability to healthcare information to work together within as well as across the organizational boundaries. Within means that within the hospital you'll find different softwares, different system, because lab could be working in a different platform, the pharmacy could be working in a different platform, and the radiology could be in a different platform. So the ideal system should be able to incorporate all those systems together and provide proper data to the caregivers and the communities. So basically, in terms of interoperability, what we are looking as a pharmacist is that we should have a medication profile, a concise medication profile, which is created for the patient. Wherever the patient is consulted or the medication is collected, any pharmacies, you should have a consolidated medication profile. And we should be able to do the reconciliation at the time of admissions and discharges, even though patient is getting treated from other hospitals. So basically, the ease of medication administration, the reconciliation as at the transition of each and every patient care. And another most important thing, what we are looking at in terms of pharmacy, is that documentation of allergy and contraindications, up-to-date data from the patient, drug allergy, contest allergies, food allergies, etc. And also, a beautiful system should be able to communicate positively with the patient. So what we call it as a caregiver-patient interface should be enabled in such good systems. In fact, so we always try to communicate, especially nowadays. With the COVID, there are so much of situations where we are not able to bring the patient to the hospital. We have to close the clinics. In fact, pharmacists were not able to see the patients. In fact, the physician, the primary care, were not able to consult the patients. The specialists were not able to consult the patients. So what we can do, the system, the interoperability of such systems should be able to open a caregiver-patient interface. That means patients should be able to meet the physician through a telemedicine platform, from sitting at hospital, from home, through a physician sitting at his office, or a pharmacist sitting at his pharmacy. We have really utilized such facilities during the COVID-19 pandemic, and the process is still ongoing. And you can open up even the website for interacting with the patient, for example, to build, for example, to get an appointment, or to have communication with the primary care physician, to a specialist, or even the pharmacist. You can open up such kind of website and applications. You can use it. So the basic tools in any of the healthcare health records should be some of the forcing functionalities. For example, what do you mean by forcing functionality? That means this is certain functionalities built in the system to stop something. For example, some of the medications that will be restricted to certain specialties. Some of the procedures has to be conducted by certain specialties. So you have to stop if someone else who doesn't have credential try to do it. So we call it as a forcing functionalities. And this forcing functionalities will be built in the system to enhance the patient safety. And some of the predictive algorithms working behind the screen to help you as a clinician. Some of the risk assessment tools, for example, sepsis assessment. When the patient is getting admitted, the system, if you give some input to the system, it can give back some of the tools, so some of the information, how, if the patient is able to, or if the patient is going to develop sepsis in the hospital, if the patient is going to develop deep vein thrombosis during the hospitalization, what are the risk factors? So you can do there are a lot of risk assessment tools available in such systems. You can incorporate a lot of care pathways. For example, if the patient is admitted with a heart failure pathway, so pathway means it's a list of items which need to do it when a particular diagnostic admission is available to the hospital. That means the system will provide you whatever you need to do for that particular patient, starting from the investigation to the medication and till the discharge. So we call it as a care pathway. So, and care pathways can be designed to based on the evidences, based on the international standards and the protocols. So you can fine-tune your care pathways based on the international recommendations, international protocols and pathways from the different organizations, for example, from NIH, etc., or from ISMB, etc. So, and then we can do a lot of outcome measures. For example, if you're a person interested in the quality, you can do a lot of outcome measures. So system will help you for that. And finally, being a manager, the system will help you a lot it will provide a lot of tools for reporting. Now the question comes, is it easy to implement such system in the hospitals? Yes, it's not that easy. There are a lot of barriers, in fact. The number one is the cost of implementation is really high. If you really want to get a smarter system, you'll have to pay for it. But even though you pay for a long term in terms of patient safety, yes, that's going to be a real good investment for any of the business organizations. And being a manager, most of the people, they look at the return of investments. Yes, you need to look at that, how far you're going to return those investments. It's going to create a lot of big impact on the routine workflow. You'll have to totally redesign your existing paper-based workflow to fit into a new electronic environment. So the things which you are doing before with the paperworks will not fit into your newer environment. So totally you have to redesign your existing workflow, which can fit into the new electronic environment. you will have to do a lot of staff training, in fact. Usually, most of the purchases will come with the staff training as well as the retraining. So the representative might provide the training for you. And the most important thing is the physician rebellion. You might find a lot of resistance from the physician community when you try to implement the CPO, the computerized physician order. The first answer they're going to give, so I'm sorry, I don't have time to log into a computer and put a prescription in the system. So physician resistance, physician rebellion is something you're going to see at the time of implementation. The best way is to get some of the representatives from the physician community who are really smart enough to handle the technologies, who are real good trainers, and train them properly and let them release them to the community so that they can retrain and train the physicians. Especially, you'll find difficulties with the person who are a little bit senior most staff, actually. So we can deal it. And you can just, we talk about a lot of technologies in dispensing, in fact, and you can see how does actually it works in a real environment. So this is exactly one of our ambulatory care pharmacy looks like in design. This is one of the state-of-art pharmacy outside US, which is totally running on the robotics technology. So to conclude, technology, it has changed our life. In fact, starting from everything like your mobile phone to the computers to the way you live in the world, everything has changed now using different technologies. So the lifestyle, it's totally changed now. And information technology have changed the way we provide the pharmaceutical care to the patient. And the healthcare automation, it's a reality, and it's becoming more common and common in modern built facilities. And the most important thing for being a pharmacist is that we need to accommodate those changes. We need to positively accommodate those changes so that we can work in an environment positivity and prioritizing the patient safety. And so thank you once again for joining with us today. Thank you for the invitation. Now the session is open for the questions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that excellent presentation and giving valuable insights on digital transformation in pharmacy practice. And so we have few questions. A question from delegate named Dr. Jinesh B. Nagavi. Which is the best method digitally to avoid medication errors in polypharmacy?
Well, we spoke about the medication or what you call it as a CPOE, computerized physician order entry. So this is the avoiding medication duplications or the polypharmacies. It's one of the tools provided by any of the basic systems, actually. So at the moment the physician try to provide a prescription in the system, the moment it will provide, or you're going to get a pop-up saying that the patient is on another medication. Say, for example, you're trying to put a medication order for the ACE while the patient is on ARB already. You're going to get a pop-up and say that, the patient is already on another medication. Or for example, 2 antihypertensives, or it's common that we use antihypertensive, multiple antihypertensives, but other medication, yes, you're going to get the pop-up, and that's the time you need to make your decisions.
There's another question. Any particular process available to treat elderly and mentally ill people like dementia?
Well, most of the hospitals, they will have a behavioral health clinic, in fact. So psychiatry is a part of that, part of the behavioral health. Some of the hospital, a pharmacist is involved, a behavioral health specialists, pharmacists, or the clinical pharmacists involved in the care, including our hospital. We have a dedicated pharmacist, clinical pharmacist working for the behavioral health. So they are totally involved in the day-to-day activities there, including seeing the patients along with the physicians, conducting the meetings with the families, conducting the group meetings sometimes, or sometimes some of the clinical or what you call as the community outreach program. So we are deeply involved in such programs here.
So there's a last question from Vinay Babu. Any information regarding new medication service with respect to cardiac and chemotherapy medications after dispensing?
I'm not very clear with the question. Can you repeat it?
Is there any information regarding new medication service with respect to cardiac and chemotherapy medications after dispensing?
Well, I'm not sure whether I got the questions clearly.
Okay, sir.
If you're asking about the adverse effect, yes, we can do that. There is a system for almost every hospital to deal with the ADs. There is a reporting system. Especially with the newer molecules, we'll be looking more closely with the newer molecules. And usually the hospital, they collect the data, they put in the system. And if something to be communicated with the regulatory agencies, of course, we communicate it on time. Yes, we do that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for answering all the questions and for the excellent presentation. So now I call upon Dr. Neetu M. Shaji, Assistant Professor, Department of Pharmacy Practice, to propose the vote of thanks.
Very good evening to everyone. I, Dr. Neetu M. Shaji, Assistant Professor, Department of Pharmacy Practice, Shadolas College of Pharmacy, Mysuru. I would like to propose hearty word of thanks to our chief guest, Professor Sharad Ogate, for gracing today's webinar and delivered inaugural address. Thank you, sir. I would like to thank our guest of honor, Dr. Ramesh Alluri, for his presence. Thank you, sir. And I would like to thank you, Mr. Rajesh Talaparambat, for sharing his valuable knowledge along with us today. Thank you, sir. And I would like to thank Dr. Hanumantacha Joshi, Principal, Shardavilas College of Pharmacy, Mysuru, for providing us this opportunity and immense support to making today's webinar grand success. And especially I thank all my colleagues of Shardavilas College of Pharmacy for their support. But last but not least, thank each and every delegate for your valuable time today. Thank you all, and I wish you a World Pharmacist Day to all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Dr. Vinay, Dr.
Once
Rajesh.
again,
It was a wonderful presentation. Great
Thank you,
presentation.
sir.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Good job.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
thank you.
Take care, all the delegates. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Rajesh sir, thank you very much.